How does a modern Boeing 777, one of the most advanced and reliable aircraft ever built, carrying 239 souls, simply vanish from the sky in an age of constant surveillance and global connectivity? This is not the plot of a movie. It is the central, haunting question of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370, a mystery that began with a routine flight and ended in the deepest, most baffling silence imaginable. On the night of March 8, 2014, the Kuala Lumpur International Airport was bustling with activity. Among the many departures was MH370, a red-eye flight bound for Beijing. On board were 227 passengers and 12 crew members, a collection of families on vacation, artists, business professionals, and engineers. They were a microcosm of the world, settling in for what should have been an unremarkable 6-hour journey. The aircraft itself, a Boeing 777-200ER, was a titan of the skies with an exemplary safety record. It was equipped with multiple, redundant communication systems, radios, a transponder that broadcasted its identity and altitude to civilian air traffic control, and a satellite communications system. The idea that all of these could fail simultaneously was considered almost impossible. The plane was a known quantity, a reliable workhorse. In the cockpit were 2 experienced pilots. The captain, 53-year-old Zahiri Ahmed Shah, was a highly respected veteran with over 18,000 hours of flight time. He was a family man and an avid aviation enthusiast who had even built an elaborate flight simulator in his home. His co-pilot was 27-year-old Farooq Hamid, a promising young pilot on his final training flight before being fully certified on the 777. At 12:42 a.m., flight MH370 took off from Kuala Lumpur, climbing into the clear night sky. For the first 40 minutes, everything was perfectly normal. The plane ascended to its cruising altitude of 35,000 feet and set its course over the South China Sea. The passengers were likely dimming their cabin lights, settling in with movies, or trying to sleep, completely unaware that their journey was about to deviate into the unknown. At 1:19 a.m., as the plane was about to pass from Malaysian to Vietnamese air traffic control, the final voice communication from the aircraft was recorded. Co-pilot Farooq Hamid's calm, steady voice transmitted the now infamous sign-off, "Good night, Malaysian 370. It was a standard, routine farewell. It was also the last time anyone would ever hear from the plane again. Just 2 minutes later, at 1:21 a.m., something went terribly wrong. The aircraft's transponder, the device that communicates its position to civilian radar, was switched off. On the screens of air traffic controllers, the icon for MH370 simply blinked out of existence. The plane had become a ghost, vanishing from the very systems designed to track it, at a point of handover where a brief delay in communication might not immediately raise alarms. For the next several agonizing minutes, air traffic controllers in both Malaysia and Vietnam tried frantically to re-establish contact. Their calls to the silent cockpit met with nothing but static. An alarm was raised. An airliner was missing. The initial assumption was a catastrophic mechanical failure or an explosion, a sudden event that would have destroyed the plane and its communication systems instantly, sending it into the depths of the South China Sea. The world woke up to the shocking news. One of the largest and most technologically advanced search and rescue operations in history was launched, focusing on the plane's last known position in the South China Sea. Ships and aircraft from multiple nations converged on the area, scouring the waves for any sign of debris, an oil slick, or the black box locator beacons. But they found nothing. The ocean was empty. Then the mystery took its first bizarre and terrifying turn. Several days into the search, The Malaysian military revealed a stunning piece of information they had initially withheld. They had tracked an unidentified aircraft on their primary military radar system, long after MH370 had vanished from civilian screens. The radar data showed the plane had not crashed. Instead, it had made a sudden, sharp turn to the west, back across the Malay Peninsula. This was a game changer. It meant the disappearance was not the result of a sudden catastrophic failure. The plane had continued to fly, its course deliberately altered. The military radar tracked it as it flew over Malaysia, out into the Strait of Malacca, and then north towards the Andaman Sea. This was a deliberate act. Someone was flying the plane, and they were flying it in the dark, with all identifying signals turned off. The revelation was horrifying. It shifted the investigation from a search for an accident site to a criminal investigation. Who was in control? Theories of a hijacking by terrorists immediately surfaced, especially after it was discovered that 2 Iranian passengers had boarded the plane using stolen European passports. This lead, however, quickly fizzled out. They were determined to be asylum seekers with no links to terror groups. The focus then shifted intensely to the 2 men in the cockpit, Captain Zahiri and co-pilot Farid. Could one of them have deliberately taken control of the aircraft? The investigation into their lives began. Police raided their homes, searching for any sign of a motive. They seized Captain Zahiri's home flight simulator, hoping to find a clue in his practice flights. The entire world was now scrutinizing the lives of these 2 men. While the world debated the human element, another, even more ghostly piece of evidence emerged. Investigators from the British satellite company Inmarsat made a groundbreaking discovery. Their satellite, positioned in a geostationary orbit over the Indian Ocean, had continued to receive automated, hourly pings, or handshakes, from MH370 for a full 7 hours after it disappeared from radar. These pings were not communications in the normal sense. They contained no data about the plane's speed, altitude, or location. They were simply automated log-on confirmations, the equivalent of a cell phone checking if it's still connected to the network. The plane was silent, but its systems were still powered on, a ghost ship flying through the night, leaving a trail of faint, electronic breadcrumbs across the sky. Using a revolutionary new analysis of the Doppler effect on these pings, measuring the subtle shifts in frequency, the Inmarsat team was able to determine a rough flight path. The data confirmed the westward turn and revealed that after flying past the northern tip of Sumatra, the plane had made another deliberate turn, this time to the south, and had flown for hours over the vast, empty expanse of the southern Indian Ocean. This was the most crucial breakthrough of the investigation. The search in the South China Sea was abandoned. The entire international effort was redirected to a new, impossibly vast search area in one of the most remote and treacherous stretches of water on Earth. The Inmarsat data created what became known as the Seventh Arc, a long, curved line representing the plane's likely location when it sent its final ping. This final ping, received at 8:19 a.m. Malaysian time, was interpreted as the moment the plane's engines flamed out from fuel exhaustion. After 7 hours of silent, unexplained flight, the ghost plane had finally run its course and plunged into the sea. The search now focused on a massive underwater area along this arc, thousands of miles west of Australia. For over 2 years, an international coalition led by Australia conducted the most extensive and expensive underwater search in human history. They deployed advanced sonar-equipped submersibles to map the deep, mountainous ocean floor, a landscape never before seen by human eyes. The search covered over 120,000 square kilometers of seabed, but it found absolutely nothing. Not a single piece of the aircraft. The families of the 239 people on board were trapped in an agonizing limbo. They were subjected to a storm of conflicting information, false hopes, and wild speculation. Each new theory, each promising sonar contact that turned out to be a shipping container or a rock formation, was another turn of the knife. Their grief was suspended, unable to find closure in the face of such a profound and complete lack of answers. Then in July 2015, 16 months after the plane vanished, a breakthrough finally occurred. On the shores of Reunion Island, a French territory in the western Indian Ocean, thousands of miles from the main search area, a man cleaning a beach discovered a large piece of aircraft debris. It was a flaperon, a part of a wing's control surface. Aviation experts were immediately deployed. The serial numbers on the barnacle-encrusted piece of metal were checked against manufacturing records. The confirmation was monumental. The flaperon was from a Boeing 777, and it belonged, unequivocally, to Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. It was the first and only piece of the plane to be positively identified. The discovery of the flaperon did two things. It provided the first tangible, heartbreaking proof that the plane had indeed crashed, and that all 239 people on board were lost. It also validated the Inmarsat data. As ocean current models showed, it was plausible for debris to travel from the 7th Arc search area to the shores of Africa and its surrounding islands. The ghost plane was real. Over the next year, more than 20 other pieces of debris, highly likely or almost certain to be from MH370, washed up on the coastlines of Mozambique, Tanzania, South Africa, and Mauritius. These included pieces of the cabin interior, the engine cowling, and the wing. The plane had clearly disintegrated on impact with the ocean, but the main wreckage and the all-important black boxes remained elusive. Despite the discovery of this scattered debris, the main underwater search continued to yield nothing. In January 2017, after nearly 3 years and hundreds of millions of dollars spent, the governments of Australia, Malaysia, and China officially suspended the search. They acknowledged the tragic reality that without new, credible evidence pointing to a specific location, the wreckage might never be found. A year later, a private American company called Ocean Infinity launched its own search, under a no-find, no-fee agreement with the Malaysian government. Using a fleet of advanced autonomous underwater drones, they scoured a new, high-priority area of the seabed. After several months of searching, their mission also ended in failure, adding another layer of despair and frustration to the long, cold case. With the physical search at an end, the investigation has been left with only the data and the unsettling list of unanswered questions. The final official report, released in 2018, was nearly 500 pages long, but came to a startlingly inconclusive finding. It ruled out mechanical failure and a rogue, ghost flight on autopilot, stating that the plane's movements were consistent with manual control, but they could not determine who was controlling it or why. The report left the world with the same primary theories that have dominated the case from the beginning. The leading and most widely discussed theory remains that of pilot mass murder-suicide, orchestrated by Captain Zahiri Ahmed Shah. Proponents point to the deliberate and precise nature of the flight path, a route that seemed designed to avoid radar detection, as something only an experienced 777 pilot could execute. Evidence cited to support this theory includes the discovery that a similar flight path, heading deep into the southern Indian Ocean, had been deleted from Captain Zahiri's home flight simulator. While the official report could not prove a link, it remains a deeply suspicious coincidence. This theory paints a picture of a man who calmly and methodically flew 238 people to their deaths for reasons that remain locked away with him. The second major theory is a hijacking, by an unknown third party. This could have been a passenger who somehow gained access to the cockpit, or even a stowaway. This theory struggles with the lack of any credible claim of responsibility, which is unusual for a terrorist hijacking. It also requires the hijacker to have the advanced aviation knowledge needed to disable the communication systems and fly the 777. A third, less likely theory is that of a catastrophic event, such as an onboard fire or a rapid decompression, that incapacitated the pilots after they initiated the turn back towards Malaysia. In this scenario, the plane then continued to fly on autopilot as a ghost flight until it ran out of fuel. However, this theory does not fully account for the subsequent turn to the south and the 7 hours of continued flight. The mystery has also spawned a host of more fringe theories, from a cyber hijacking where the plane was controlled remotely, to a shoot-down event that was subsequently covered up, to the plane being flown to a secret location. None of these theories are supported by the available evidence, but their existence speaks to the profound need for an explanation in the face of such a complete and baffling void. The legacy of MH370 has been a painful but crucial catalyst for change in the aviation industry. New global standards are being implemented to require commercial aircraft to report their position more frequently and to be equipped with black boxes that can be ejected from the aircraft before a crash, making them easier to find. The disappearance exposed a shocking vulnerability in modern air travel. For the families of the victims, the legacy is one of unending grief and a fight for a truth that seems forever out of reach. They have formed support groups, hired their own experts, and continue to pressure governments not to give up the search. For them, this is not a mystery. It is a wound that cannot heal, a constant, daily ache of not knowing the final resting place of their loved ones. The story of MH370 is a chilling reminder that despite all our technology, our planet still has vast, unexplored regions where even something as large as a Boeing 777 can disappear. The southern Indian Ocean is one of the last true wildernesses on Earth, its seabed deeper and less understood than the surface of the moon. It is a place that can easily swallow a secret. And so, the world is left to wonder. What really happened in the cockpit of that plane during its final silent hours? Was it an act of unimaginable malice, a desperate cry for help, or a tragic accident that unfolded in a way no one could have predicted? Flight MH370 did not just disappear from radar. It disappeared from the world of the known, leaving behind a ghost story for the modern age, and 239 souls lost in the deepest, darkest mystery of our time.